All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here. It's Smirking Gun Reviews, back to talk more Handmaid's Tale. The episode just got over with. So we're doing Season 4, Episode 9. It's the penultimate episode of Season 4. Next week's the finale. And boy, is there a lot of going on here. It's called Progress. It's kind of a fitting title. But again, let's get the usual rigmarole out of the way. If you like what I'm doing here, don't forget to become a subscriber to the channel. We are only I think it's like 40 subscribers away from 2,000. It's like unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But if you're new to the channel, make sure you do that. Make sure you hit the bell for all notifications and share with other people. If you're not new to the channel and you've been watching for a while, welcome back as always. How's everybody doing? There's a lot going on here, and yes, in my thumbnail, we talked about, I have the question, is Janine the real hero right as of now? Because they did a, they did a lot to make June kind of, not a villain, but villain, with the assault on Luke, the attitude that she's had. And I love June as a character. And I'm not saying that she is a villain, but is she a hero? Because she's a hero getting those kids out. She's a hero for trying so hard, and surviving and getting out. But I mean, none of the other handmaids made it. They're all they're either dead or they're back in the hands of Gilead or newly captured, like characters like Esther. And that's not, strictly just her fault. I mean, she did give them up for Hannah. But we see a course correction in June's character here when that kind of opportunity arises again. But for me, when I ask the question, is Janine the true hero, or the real hero right now, that's also hard to say. Because of what's going on with her, she's not drinking the Kool-Aid anymore. She understands the situation, and we know that she's a lot smarter than people give her credit for. And I mean, it was easy to see, easy to question that smart because of literally the conks to the head she's taken and the loss of eyeballs and everything else. But I don't know. I feel like there's definitely a place to say that Janine could end up being like a kind of quiet hero for the handmaids. Because that's what I really feel like is how, like when the show is going to be over, will that be resolved? Will this all be resolved? Will Gilead fall before the end of this show? Because there is the line that Janine says, you need to stay alive for when things get better. Now, does that mean that she's talking about the eventual fall? That she's got this hope that this will end, and we need to be able to say we survived this? And is her job now kind of like what Lydia is feeling like her character's being kind of pushed towards? And again, that goes into this next book that was just released recently, where Aunt Lydia becomes, more like trying to protect the women in the book. If I'm remembering what I was told correctly. So I do think that Janine really could be the person who could save the handmaids. When this all is said and done, do the thing that June couldn't do, because in the end she was going to look out for Hannah, which as a parent, not me, but her as a parent, because everybody in the comment section likes to make sure I know this, that you do anything for your kid. I don't have kids, so I don't I don't know what I would do. But June was given a bad choice. And so she picked her kid over the handmaids. But Janine could be the one that really helps and saves the handmaids in the end, to get them all out when June couldn't. So we'll see. We'll see about that. And this basically has two parts. There's Janine and Aunt Lydia and June's whole epic journey that she goes on in this episode. And again, the freaking close-ups are still just so all over. Just every shot seems to be so much like this. I love this shot. I love this shot. They are capable of doing really interesting things with the cameras. And Elizabeth Moss has a very intense face, and she gives a lot to each scene emotionally, just with her face. But you can still capture that without being this close. That's all I'm saying. Just doesn't. It's just, and she's directing, but maybe. So maybe that's no. They were doing close-ups well before she was directing. So let's just talk about Janine and Lydia's thing here, because this also deals with Esther. You know, they got poor Esther McKenna Grace, who's just such an amazing actress for being like 14 years old. You look at her, there's shots of her. Of course, there's a lot of close-up shots of her. But when you're up close, she does not look like she's 14. She looks like she's, like the way her character is, she feels like a much older person because of the horrors that she's experienced. She's lost her innocence a long time ago, and so she just has that haunted, look of someone who's been through a lot, and that ages you. Nick also looks kind of old this episode too, but we're not talking about his scenes yet. Well, Esther's not giving in. She's doing what a lot of people do when they first get there, is rebel against this, push back against the oppressors. And this is where you start to see Janine have influence over Aunt Lydia. That Aunt Lydia is trying to find new ways of doing things while still getting what she wants, while still getting what Gilead wants. And Janine is trying to play the long game. She's been there, she's done that, she's not hopeless, but she feels like you have to survive. And in order to survive, we have to just do what they want. Now that almost feels like giving up, but I feel like the way Janine sees it, it's more like we can't if we die, they win. If we let them torture us, they win. And it may seem like a really weird way of saying, because I'm not condoning legalized sexual assault. I'm saying I think Janine is using the tools that she has and the reality that she's in to help them survive. And while Esther doesn't buy it, she sees right through it when she comes into the room, right? I thought she did a really good job of putting it together for her and making her see. Because Aunt Lydia, she praises her. And even though it's for poor Esther and for anybody that's in this situation, having to recite all that biblical bullshit back, I'm listening to it. I'm thinking every time somebody asks you something, you have to remember how to speak about the Lord's bounty and all this other crap. That would just drive me fucking bananas, man. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really it for Janine and Aunt Lydia, except, Aunt Lydia's, you can tell the struggle she's going through. She wants so badly. She's still got that part of her that would just, bust out a taser or a frickin' conk to the head or slam against the wall or who knows what, starving them, waterboarding them, whatever else she's done. But she's trying. Now that doesn't make her any less of a villain, by any means. I want her hung on the side of the wall as much as anybody. But realistically, with the way that this show is, it's just not going to happen right now. It's not happening next week, folks. It's gonna, if it happens, it'll happen way down the road in season 5. And we don't even know what the landscape of this show is going to look like in season 5. We really don't. tomorrow, next week's episode is gonna be a real eye opener for where we're going to be headed for the like hopefully final season of this show. So let's get into the big part of this, the big part of this episode, which is June trying to figure out how to get information on Hannah so that they can get her back. And you know, the kind of rage that she has for losing Hannah, for failing to get her out of there, that rage that she has for the people that did all these horrible things to her. Like seeing, you know, being free and being powerless to do anything meaningful about any of it. Knowing and seeing what's wrong and wanting to just go in there and fucking kick ass. Kill all these people. Really. Go in there and kill all these raping motherfuckers. And you can't do anything about it. It's like this episode especially has a lot of parallels, and they weren't being that subtle about it, about our world right now. There are many of us who are seeing what's going on right now. We've got all this rage built up. But what do we do with it? What do we do? I feel powerless to do anything when we know that all we need is to do this, that, X, Y, and Z to change some things in this world. So it's like, you know, I understand that feeling of rage that goes nowhere, that it contributes to nothing. And so, you know, watching this evil continue, how do you get Hannah back? You know, what kind of deal would you have to make with Gilead? So they do turn to Bradley Whitford's Commander Lawrence. Now, again, Commander Lawrence is an interesting guy, and he does have something to contribute to this episode. I still think that his arc really ended last year, but this is an interesting scene because, you know, he tells, you know, June about Janine being back and at the Red Center, and that fucks up June. And he knew it. He knew it would. And then he says, like, you know, well, how about we give, you know, you give us 10 of the kids that you took back because, you know, hey, those kids, they're all messed up. You know, they want to come back to their parents. And he knows that will mess her up. He is playing a psychological game with her. This is the guy that helped her get those kids out. And he's playing mind games with her. He is such a weird guy because he's one of the architects, one of the main architects of Gilead, right? He's the guy who came up with the ideas. Yet he knows it's all wrong. He tries to help, and yet he still plays these fucked up mind games. Now, maybe it's because he's playing, you know, maybe because people are listening, that he has to make it look good. But if he's just making it look good, he's doing a really good job at it. Because of all, in the end, Lawrence is a coward. He's a fucking coward who will only look out for himself in the end. As much as he knows how awful everything is and all the horrible things that have happened because of his ideas, he's still looking out for number one. He still won't risk himself. He still won't do what's right. He still won't risk his own life to do the right thing. And again, there's this parallel, you know. There's an interesting when you watch his face in this scene. There's a couple of moments when she's like telling him you're a good man and everything, and he tries to be glib and like, yeah, I hear they're hard to find. But he is struggling. And that's what makes this character interesting, because there's the two sides of him. There's that bravado, the big old, I'm going to be, you know, the guy that Gilead wants me to be. I got to put on that face. And then there's the guilt, where it almost looked like he wanted to get emotional about when she's talking about Hannah, you know, and how we love her and she's ours and she's our family. And there's that part of him that almost wants to give in, but he doesn't. He doesn't break. But he's also, like I said, he's the guy that knows it's wrong and won't break the, like, again, it reminds me of politics today. We have people that know what the right thing to do is, and they won't do it because it would mean breaking party lines, being bipartisan, making, siding with people that you just can't side with. Even though it's the right thing to do and you know it's the right thing to do and you still deny it. And because you won't risk your position, you won't risk your power, you won't risk your life to do the right thing for the country, for the people that you represent, for the people that are too stupid to know what the right thing is. And there's so few people that will actually do this in the world. So it's not a big stretch to watch these people who, like Lawrence, who won't do a fucking thing if it means that they might die or they might lose their position. And it's fucking disgusting that we have to sit there here every day of our lives watching the same shit happening around this country. Anyway. So they don't, and here's the cool thing about June here is that when she gets the offer to take 10 and then 5 kids, remember, she gave up all the handmaids just to, because of for Hannah. And she doesn't budge. She does not break this time. She knows that she could not get all those kids out and then send even a single one of them back for her kid, because she's got all these bodies in her wake. She's got all these dead handmaids. She's got everywhere that she's gone, things have not worked out and other people have paid the price. And now they want to ask her to, well, if you really want your kid, just one kid, we'll give you one kid if you give us all these other ones back. And she does not break. And that is a really great moment for the character, even though I, way back when we were talking about this, it was a very disappointing moment for me, for the character. But again, this is when the audience told me, hey, she's a mother, this is what you do. So that doesn't work out. And they reach out. Luke brings up Nick, which is actually really interesting. Him knowing the entire backstory of what June did and who Nick is to June and who Nick is to baby Nicole. And he's the one who suggests going to see him. I thought that was really, really interesting for that character to be that open to it. Even though we know he doesn't like it, he admits to not liking it, but it's the only option else they have right now, and if it'll get them something, it has to be done. So I really liked that, even though I thought it's a terrible idea, because the first thing I thought was, oh, God, yeah, she's got Secret Service with her, so what? This could be, next week we could have seen June back in custody of Gilead. Like, what if Nick went there with the best of intentions, but Gilead was there waiting in secret to just take her back and baby Nicole, and then... But that's not what happens here. That's not what happens. They have their little meeting. He gives her the file. Hannah's in Colorado Springs. It was one of the weirdest, like, child visitations. You know what I mean? Like when a parent has to go to some really out of the way place to meet the other parent so that that parent can see the kid. It's like, some parents, they meet each other in the McDonald's parking lot. Here they're like meeting out in the middle of the buttfuck nowhere countryside. With Secret Service agents. But this is where I noticed that Nick looked old. And he's married. He had that ring. He put it on. So he's like moved on too. Like, this is kind of like their goodbye in a way, maybe. Is this the last we'll see of Nick? Probably not. So they go back. But before we get into that, we have to talk about Serena and Fred. Now, last week I posted 2 videos, and one was like, what's Serena Joy plotting? Well. Okay, so first Naomi shows up, and she sees that, Serena Joy's been writing. She just automatically, we see that she saw the pen, she sees the pad of paper with some writing on it. And they're talking about, we'll raise your son for you. You can come back to Gilead a hero. And Serena's like, I don't think that's fucking the way this is gonna go if I go back there. Like, I'm gonna be a handmaid. Or worse, they're gonna take my kid away. And Fred, he finds out that his place in Gilead is gone. And they give him the thoughts and prayers. Another thing that people love to do these days is thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. And it's like, you can take your thoughts and prayers and shove them straight up your stupid ass. They don't... as well-meaning as people seem when they sound it, is one of the just... It's what people say when they don't really want to do anything. Or they feel they can't, or whatever. Like, I'm not dissing inherently people actually meaning that. Oh, yeah, but what is it? What does it really do? What does it really do? Oh, somebody's thinking of me. Great. It'd be even better is if they help me with the situation. Oh, they can't. Why? Oh, no reason? Oh, thank God. I'll be able to do a lot with thoughts and prayers. But this is where I started thinking. I was like, oh, shit. He's on the outs. And the guy even says, they're putting us out to pasture, people like you and me. And, he's feeling abandoned. And that's, like, somebody flipped, and it wasn't Serena. Even though I have a feeling she'll be probably saying the same things as he is. Or maybe she won't have to because he is. So he's seeing the writing. I even wrote, Fred's seeing the writing on the wall. He's still deluded, but he said he'll do everything in his power. She's like, what are you going to do here? You're going to be locked up. How can you do anything like that, And we find out at the end, Mark, good old Mark, tells June and Luke, after everything they've been through, and they have the information about Hannah, and they'll do some, we're going to have a meeting about that. Yeah. And he tells them that we have a new asset. Who's the asset? It's not Serena. It's Fred. So the deluded guy who's got fans now, and again, that's so fucked, where they're opening gifts from people that believe in their cause, and him just being like, there's more to Fred's game here, and I said that there was probably going to be something. There was going to be something in the end of this, before the end of this, that's going to throw a monkey wrench in June's plans for retribution and justice. And here it is, old Fred is going to flip on Gilead for his freedom. And they let him have it. Which leads June to screaming bloody murder that she's going to kill these people. And not Fred and Serena. She's talking about the people that let this rapist go. And it was pretty insane. And I don't know where she's going to go. Where she's going to go after that, because if I'm Mark and the rest of them, I wouldn't want her anywhere near me. After you scream, I will kill you. I am going to kill you. Okay. So next week is the finale. And with Fred doing this, I don't know what's going to happen. So if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. If you did not like anything you just heard, for all of you that did, please look away. For those of you that hated everything I just said, well, we're going to give you a better memory. So don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to all the people who did like this, notifications, blah, blah, blah. And here, to all the people who hated this, here's your new memory. You just watched one of those videos where it dares you to see how long you can take till you laugh. You made it right until the football went into that kid's crotch. Have a great night, everybody.